This episode is brought to you by AppWork. Much more than maintenance, AppWork is advanced business intelligence. You can streamline your maintenance workflows and keep an eye on the leaderboard as service team members enjoy the gamification of maintenance. If that sounds interesting, visit appworkco.com. That's appworkco.com and transform your productivity today. Employee feedback. I just love the way that Jen Picotti, the president of SwiftBunny, opens a recent article that she posted on LinkedIn. Literally, the first sentence is employee feedback. And she goes on to say that some leaders just stopped right there. They didn't even read the rest of the article, which is probably true, maybe hopefully it's just a small subset of individuals who didn't go on to read the article. But the punchline in the very early innings of her article talks about how most team members in the multifamily space, and I'm sure this is true in most industries across the country, most team members are content. Most people that work in your organizations are content in some way, shape, or form. Do they have complaints? Sure. Do they have feedback that might be adverse to your operation? Sure. But on the other side of that coin, you have people who are just evangelists for your organization. And wouldn't that feedback on both sides of the equation be very valuable for your organization? So she goes through and unpacks a couple of different quotes or a couple of different pieces of information that is really drawn from actual feedback in the surveys that they put out. One thing that struck me was 91% of employees agree they have good working relationships with their coworkers. And we all know it's kind of like on the resident side of the multifamily space. We know that when residents make friends with their neighbors, they become more sticky, so to speak, in that they'll renew their leases because they are around people that they know, they're around people that they like familiarity. So they stick around for a long time. And it's the same way with team members. If your team members have good relationships with their coworkers, they're likely to stick around and stay around, and retention stays at a higher clip in your company. I thought there's a very interesting point that she makes in here. One of the other things that struck me was how building for growth and for success in your organization, it's, companies right now are going through the exercise of defining the roles in the organization. The reason why that's happening right now is you see a lot of introduction of centralization, introduction of artificial intelligence, and how that is really shifting our landscape. It's shifting our business models. And so companies are going through and redefining what those particular success paths look like, or your path to promotion. And what she suggests in here through feedback is that you take that trend line and you go through and you define what success looks like, and then you make that success narrative or that success metric accessible to your team members so that they go out and look at it. So if I'm currently a leasing consultant and I want to be a property manager, I understand what the success and the narrative is attached to the success of a property manager, and I can start today studying and potentially manufacturing the very things that I need to do, to use to do the reps with, so that I can become adept at being a property manager and I can make my way to that particular role. So through feedback, you get definition of role. You also get this sort of success metric, this success narrative, and you know that team members in your organization want to be promoted. So you can give them the path to get there, and you do that by way of feedback. And then she goes on to list 5 different things that they've learned in conducting surveys over the last 18 years, or she has learned over the last 18 years. I'm not going to give you all 5 because I think you should go read the whole article so she can set the context for you much better than I did just now. But here's one thing that I think is very valuable. I read this and it was not an aha moment. It was like a you're darn right moment. So I'm just brave enough to say that. Every comment is valid, but remember, your goal is to make a decision based on the collective voice of the employees, not the loudest or most critical one. I think that there is a lot of this going on in society. There's a lot of this going on internal to organizations, and that is that you get this very, very, very loud minority in a company, very loud minority in society, and people become paralyzed by that voice, the loudness of that voice, the in-your-faceness of those voices. and then we don't do anything. And we have to remember that there is a collective of voices, a collective in an organization, a collective in society that sort of weeds out this extreme piece of this side, and somewhere in here, center right, center left, right in there is the voice that you really want to hear in your organization. And that's the voice you want to take action on. And it doesn't mean you ignore these extremes. You certainly engage with the extremes and you help them understand that, look, this is where we operate as a business, right here in the center left, center right. We don't operate out here at the extremes. And if that is what you're after, this might not be the organization for you. And it's okay to say that. And it's okay to behave and act in a way that is germane with the values of your organization that might be right down the middle. And you can do that in the way of listening to collective feedback from your team members. So I am a big proponent, a big advocate for taking team member feedback. Having used SwiftBunny in the past, I can certainly endorse them. They didn't pay me to say that. I can certainly endorse them as a platform that does a tremendous job collecting this information, but then also coming right alongside you as an organization, right alongside you as leaders to help you implement things into your organization that help you improve your scores in the areas that seem to be a deficit right now. So that's that. I'll link this article up in the show notes. Great job, Jen. We'll talk to you soon. And I want to give one more hat tip to AppWork for sponsoring today's episode. Imagine carrying a digital make-ready board in your pocket with work order tracking and maintenance technician leaderboards designed to gamify the process and bring out your team's competitive best. As a reminder, if that sounds interesting, you can go to appworkco.com. That's appworkco.com today to learn more.